I love that. And this is a topic that like I'm personally passionate about. So not only do I want to hear like all about your success and for you to share, with everyone about how you launch this program. And a big thing, I've been actually sharing your story as an example because people always ask us like, I'm not in a business niche or I'm not in a quote, make money niche is what they call it. But can I still be successful? And I'm like, you have to look at Misty. Like her story is a true testament that when you're living in your purpose and your why, you could be successful in anything that you do. And we were talking about this a little bit before we got on this podcast recording. So tell us a little bit more about why you joined CCA and kind of where you were at before you joined.
Sure. I kind of fell into my purpose backwards, and I didn't, when I was young, think I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be a psychic. Not what I thought at all. I was actually on track to be an engineer at the time, and that ended up just kind of not being in alignment for me. There was some stuff happening within the industry, and so when I became a psychic, all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm a business owner. Like that's what that means. It means you own your own business. And you don't really realize that when you enter into this field. And from there, I just kind of, I have a background in small business management, but this is like from 20 years ago, I got that degree. So it was a while ago that I actually got that degree. So now I'm like, okay, how can I, and the industry's changed so much too, right? And there's all this new stuff and it's so exciting and to really get involved in it. And so, yeah, I got involved with CCA because I wanted to have that mentorship and that person to be beside me to help me with my strategy for finding the people that really resonated with my work and want to work with me, and also to be able to build that foundation of my business so it can support me more.
I love that. And this is kind of reminding me about the story that you made, which is what inspired me to invite you on the podcast. You're like, I invested in a business coach and it's not what I expected. And I'd love you to just like unpack that because I think when we see like a course or a coaching program, it's like you can't like touch it, right? You can't see it. It's not a tangible thing. So you're like, what am I really getting? So can you talk a little bit more about that experience?
Sure. So there's just so much support, one. And I didn't expect to get so much support. I didn't expect to feel so held. And that's really, really nice because it's something that I felt like I really needed. And then also that help with strategy where it's really, I guess, personalized to your unique path. And even though all the women and all the people in it, we're all on a similar path and working towards the same things, it looks different for each of us and we're all at different phases, right? But to know where you are and where you are in the process and to be able to hone in on the specific thing that's going to really move the needle for your business is really, really helpful. And then also just the amount of income that I made right off of the start, I was like, oh, whoa, like, okay, this paid for itself twice over, it more than paid for itself immediately. And so it felt like such a good investment and felt like I made such a good decision there and so aligned with me. And there was something about your energy at the time that I was just like, oh, this feels good. Like this feels like such the right thing.
Yeah, it's so true. I have been in the game for a minute. It's true. So I'm Andy, obviously, and what I really love doing is building obsession worthy brands of the future. And I really believe that that comes from a place of considering how a brand can connect from a place of community, what good it can do in the world, how it uses imaginative thinking. And I especially love doing that with female founders and soul led women, creatives, artists, budding entrepreneurs. So my background is in the beauty industry. I spent over a decade working as a senior executive in marketing, sales, and education for a beauty brand. And I started my business. I left that job about 10 years ago. And
Wow.
so my business has evolved tremendously from those days when I left that corporate job and started working as a creative consultant and sometimes social strategist and was doing lots of other things along the way. I had a travel blog. I wrote a couple of books. I just am very interested in a lot of things. But what it has always come back to for me is that I love working on brand development and really helping women to experience great success with the brands that they're building. So that's the very short version.
I love that. And for everyone listening, like after you listen to this episode, you need to go check out Andy's Instagram, because every time I look at your page, I'm like, you are just a vibe. Like that's how I feel about you. You just radiate this energy of like, she is like a vibe. You have like chill, good energy. And I feel like that's so rare to come by these days.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much. And I have to say, I'm definitely like on the woo woo scale of things. And I totally believe that the way we feel about the work that we're doing, even when it comes to like creating content for social, the way we feel inside as we're doing it gives that reflection when you're receiving it. And so it's always important to me to like go into it feeling like, okay, I'm in the zone. I've got the vibe. I'm like feeling all of that. And when I do that, I know that I can come across that way in a way that's really authentic. So thanks for saying that.
Yeah, of course. So to kind of shift gears a little bit, I really wanted to have you on the podcast today because you have inspired me, our community, your community so much with this massive growth that you've seen. So to give a little context to our listeners, Andy had joined our membership, the Conscious Creator Club. And then out of nowhere, I'm like watching your reels and they're like blowing up. I'm seeing all this success on your stories. And I'm like, Andy, what the heck is going on? And you're like, oh, I have to tell you. And then you make a post in our membership and I'm like, you knocked my socks off. So can you tell everyone about the success that you've seen?
Yeah, for sure. So I am definitely like one of those elder millennial types that I was like so dialed in the days of aesthetic Instagram and was like really good at it. And I had grown pretty quickly from like 2017 to 2019. I was like at like 45,000 followers and I was like, I'm doing the thing. And that's when I was doing my travel blogging and it was no reels. It was just photos. And I like got really good at taking beautiful photos. And then things shifted. My business shifted. The world of social shifted. The way we consume content shifted. And I was like, not there. I was like, okay, I don't really feel like I get this. And what was interesting was in the background, my business was growing tremendously. I was getting bigger and better brand partnerships. My blog was blowing up. I had something like that year around 2019. We hit like 1 million readers for every 6 months on the blog. It was just like things were going. But Instagram had completely stalled out for me. So I was like, okay, I'm really good at like putting together beautiful aesthetic photos, but it's making no difference in my business. And then it was like starting to go backwards where I was like, this is not it. So fast forward, I was having this moment at the beginning of this year where I was like, maybe it just is a thing that is not going to happen for me. And then I was like, what? This is like not how I operate. I do not operate with the mindset of like, this is not a thing I can do. So I was like, no, I need to shift my thinking and I need to look for some expanders that are doing this really well. And you were very much one of those. I was like, all right, this sister is doing the thing. So I joined the membership and I was like, okay, what I really need is the accountability and the structure to re-engage, like to get this shifted in a really good way. I had some ideas of where I needed to pivot and the messaging that I needed to reintroduce or pull from some of the other things I was doing, like messaging from my podcast, messaging from my blog, messaging on my sales pages that was not even present on my Instagram. And I was like, what am I doing? Why am I not sharing these messages that work on my other platforms on this platform? So using your structure, and it really happened for me in a big way when we had the 28 days Reels challenge. I was like, all right, I'm doing it. I'm committed. I will show up every day. I will do it exactly the way that Giulia says to do it. And I will get my messaging dialed in. I'm a smart girl. I know how to do that. And then boom, like things went wild. Like by day 6, I had grown. I think when I posted in the group, by day 6, I had grown 4,000 followers in 6 days. And I was like, oh shit, like things are turning up. And then by the end of the challenge, I had grown by about 12,000 followers at the end of the challenge.
So what year was it that you started this copywriting business?
So it was in 2018.
Okay, wow. So now we're 2023. it's December, and fast forward, right, a few years. So I assume that you started as a freelance copywriter, right? Like you were just doing it yourself.
Yes, exactly. And my idea really was to make maybe $500 per month, so as I can have some extra money, so as I can stay at home with my kids. So that was my whole idea.
Oh, that is so pure. I absolutely like adore that, because look, like now when we look back on the journey and we fast forward to today, having a $132,000 launch, that is wild to me. So take us through the journey of 2018, starting as a freelance copywriter, just wanting to make $500 a month, to where you're at now. Give us like a summary of what that journey looked like.
So I think what works really well for me is that I was thinking, how can I use my experience? So at first I was writing actually for scientific companies because I thought I'm good in science, so let's use it. And because of this, it was so easy for me to stand out because I was almost the only one who was a specialist in this type of things. So then I was gaining more and more people who wanted to work with me. And I felt I can do something for even more people. I can teach them. But I was really so scared. I was super scared of being on social media. I was always scared to speak up. Like at school, I was always the one who never was talking. But then I saw there is a big potential. And if I would be a little bit more brave, I could actually help more people. So, and I decided I will go for it. I was really scared, but I started to be active on Facebook. I founded a Facebook group, and I also started to do Facebook lives. And it seems to me like all the time I was doing more and more scary things, but in really small steps. So it wasn't so scary. I was just rising the bar. And it was so nice to see people who loved my work, because I was really scared nobody is going to like it or it will not help to people. But I could see that even if it was not perfect, people have been so happy and I could help them. So I started to make online courses and I started to learn everything about launching and about social media. And I was just like, I was really enjoying it. I think that's also like so important. I was having so much fun and I was thinking, how can I do it with my kids at home and helping my clients and having fun at the same time?
And this is such an awesome journey where it's like you do the thing, you become the expert in it, and now you're like, I want to help other people do the same. And I think that's what's so unique about the online course industry and like your story. I have a similar story. So it's like this almost like really profound transformation where it's like, okay, you have a skill. It's working for you. You're becoming successful about it. Now you teach the person behind you. So let's jump to, you have this successful business, you're doing online courses, you've done launches before. Now you decide to join CCA. What inspired you to sign up for the course?
Because before I joined, my business was dependent a lot of launches, and I love launching. It's really fun, but it's also really intense for me and my team. And it's a lot of work. Like you cannot, if you have never been launching, you have no idea how hard it is. And of course, it works really nicely. I was growing from 4-figure to 5-figure to 6-figure launches. But I felt I'm so dependent on it. And also I felt it's a shame that people cannot buy from me all the time, because if you are launching, you open the door for a week and then it's closed. But I felt I like to be on social media, and in this way, new people are going to see me all the time, and I have nothing that I could offer them. So that was the first reason. Second reason was that I actually had an accident in August. I fell down and broke my arm. And because of this, I had to change my plans because I wasn't able to work and I wasn't able, of course, to make a big launch. It's like no doubt about this. So I was thinking, what can I do for my business? I didn't want it to only be in bed and feeling bad about myself. I wanted to do something like small steps, but that are giving me something in the end. So that's why I found you, and that's why I joined.
Failure is the fastest way to succeed. And I know you may be thinking that that's a contradiction, but think about it. My best stories, my best pieces of content all come from my failures, honestly. People don't want to hear all the time about how successful I am, how much money I make. I get it. They want to hear about the shit that I went through so that I'm able to get to where I am today. Because let's be real, people connect with pain. People understand that on a deeper level. And this is exactly what we're going to be talking about today in this episode. You want to move away from pain and towards pleasure. So you're going to connect deeply with the pain and the story because you want to hear the overcome, right? So what we teach people is a 3-act structure. So in the beginning, right, the character faces some sort of conflict, right? And then they're kind of at this point of inflection where they're like, what do I do? And then the ending is that the character is overcome or the character overcomes. And these are what makes the best stories. And this is why failure is, first of all, inevitable. And second of all, failure is the catalyst to your success. Because once you fail, you're trying to move away from pain and you're like, I never want this to happen to me again. So you're going to move towards how can I avoid that situation? So that's going to lead to change. So the first thing I want to touch upon is how much it matters to fail quickly. So like we said already, failure is inevitable. You're going to fail in your life and that's okay. The best people have a graveyard of failures behind them, including myself. I would not be able to come on here and say this podcast, YouTube video, wherever you're watching it, if I was not having all these failures behind me. If I didn't post so many podcasts or videos that make me cringe, just go back and stalk me from a couple years ago and you can see for yourself. Your ability to fail fast is what's going to make you the most successful in your journey. Success is actually really boring. So, I was talking to someone a couple days ago, a potential new client, and she was like, all I want is to travel the world and do all these things. And I just brought myself back, a couple years ago, and I wanted those things too. And I thought that it would just come so easy, right? Because everyone makes it look so easy on social media. But the truth is, it's not easy. And I wish more people were talking about how success really lies in the mundane. And I think the reason why people think success is so easy or it's going to come so simple or it's going to come overnight is because when you see someone get rich quick, or you see someone become an overnight success, it's because they have a graveyard of failures behind them and they have years of compound interest. And I wish more influencers, more creators, and more business owners were talking about the power of compound interest in your business. So we typically hear about compound interest in real estate, right? You think, I'm going to invest in this house and it's going to grow in value and I'm going to get money every month. It's going to compound, or in an investment account, right? Investing in the stock market. But what about the compound interest of you staying focused and doing the same thing over and over and over again? Because at the end of the day, true success and wealth is built through playing the long-term game. So for example, a lot of people are seeing me now grow my business and scale my business so fast. And a lot of people keep DMing me like, Giulia, how are you doing it? What's the secret? What's the sauce? And all I want to say is, where were you these past 2 years when I had my head down and I was so focused and I wanted to give up and I wanted to quit? Why weren't you asking me then? You only want to see it when it's on the outside. But the truth is, it's years of hard work compounded. Guys, just 3 years ago, I was on my hands and knees sifting through other people's junk in the middle of a pandemic to pay off my student debt and selling clothes on Poshmark. So those skills have now compounded to that same grit and discipline and motivation and humility that I now take into my business today. And it's such a humbling experience to look back and say, I was willing to do this because I am willing to do whatever it takes, no matter what is thrown at me. So when I received that letter that I was $25,000 in debt, right, a couple of years ago, I had that same mindset, that same energy, that same motivation that no matter what, I'm always going to do whatever it takes. And whatever it takes looks different now than it looked when I was selling my clothes on Poshmark. You see, if you're thinking that you're a failure, you're not. You're not a failure. You're just not focused. And the amount of times I see people on social media saying, do this thing, I did this much, or do this thing. Like, I literally train my sales team now, and I say, do not welcome people into our program. Do not invite people into our program if they're looking for something overnight, because this program takes time, and this program takes hard work, and it takes effort. Nothing is coming flying from the sky. The success is going to happen in the mundane tasks, in the daily activities. The success you see in the macro comes through the micro.